Hey everybody, Corey from Aquarium Co-op. Today we're talking about how to set up a tank for guppies for beginners. Now, I've been doing this a long time. Guppies are basically my favorite fish, and I have tons of them all around my fish room and my store, and I've helped many people do this. And so I've got best practices of here's how to be successful. First, I like to use a 10 gallon and up tank. So 5 gallons can be done? Yes. Is it easier? No. 10 gallons and up I find to be the easiest, with 10 to 20 to 30, somewhere in that range being the sweet spot. You go too much bigger, it kind of gets harder. You try to do too many things. And too much smaller, you're trying to shoehorn it in. So I like 10 to 30 gallons. My first tip is use crushed coral. I don't know what your water is. You might not know what your water is. Like what's the pH, what's the hardness, all of that. But in general, I like to use 2 to 3 inches of just crushed coral. If you have well water like me and it's super hard and everything, crushed coral won't matter. You could have used any rock. If you have other water though, it may be helping you and therefore would be good. And so I use crushed coral in all of my guppy tanks essentially when I can, when it's only guppies, because it doesn't hurt, only helps. I like 2 to 3 inches because it makes it easy to plant. And then you have lots of buffering capacity even if you're lax on the water changes. Next up, I like to run a black background. It blends in with lots of stuff like airline tubing and filters, and I don't want to see the filter if I'm running it. I don't want to see cords on the outside of the tank. I don't want to see shadows on the wall. I just run it black, and I paint all of my tanks basically black on the background, or you can get yourself like a 3D background, but more expense. Next, I like to set up plant cover. And this would be definitely a good time to sidebar. Look up our videos on a seasoned aquarium or the first 60 days in setting up an aquarium. I like lots of live plants, and I want that to be majority of the decor and help these fish grow. So easy plants for doing this. I like Pogo stellatus octopus, which that's a mouthful. We'll put it up on the screen here. We sell it. Basically, the octopus plant, easy to grow. Dwarf aquarium lilies, red plant, easy to grow. Amazon swords, easy to grow. Fertilizer, you can use our liquid fertilizer. You can also use root tabs. But for the most part, once your tank's very established, 3 months and on, lots of fish poop is going to keep most of these plants going, whether you fertilize or not, honestly. The fertilizer in the beginning helps it go, and then you'll fall in love with plants. You'll keep more plants, and you'll need the fertilizer then. Next, I want to fry-proof, baby-proof the intake. So this is the intake for a power head or your canister filter or your hang-on back. And you basically want something like this, a coarse sponge that goes on there so babies don't get sucked in, fish food doesn't get sucked in, big long tails on guppies don't get sucked and stuck to it. The alternative to running this is to run a sponge filter. And this is basically just a sponge. You run air, and it's your filter, and you don't have that problem. You need to use an air pump, which I recommend in all setups, always using air. Whether it's just an air stone or a sponge filter like that, air is very important to everything, even when it lives underwater. Helps for circulation, helps get you maximum oxygen. So run an air source. When it comes to adding the fish to the tank, you should have high enough pH. You should have enough minerals to get started and everything with that crushed coral, and you've got plants growing, you've got a little bit of algae. We're assuming at this point that your tank is seasoned. Now, if you just cycle a tank, I'm not a fan of that because that means you can handle some ammonia. That doesn't mean you can handle fish in real life scenarios, and so you have to start using meds, and then what about the plants? And you basically want it so that this ecosystem will take care of itself, whether you have fish in there or not. And so when I can get to that point, that's when I like to add fish. Check out those types of videos. But I like to add basically 2 to 3 boys for 3 to 5 girls. Now, me personally, I don't like 3 boys and 3 girls. I much prefer having more females than males. The males will continually pester the females to breed. That is what guppies do. They make babies. That's what they do. If I'm buying off the internet or I'm going to a store, typically what I buy is 2 males, 4 females. I get a group of 6 fish, and I bring that home, and I basically am quarantining. If you have a quarantine tank, great. If not, this is your quarantine tank. I'm looking for illnesses, and I want to make sure they're nice and healthy long term. In the short term, They've been through, shipped around the country or the world. They've been in a pet store. They've been, fighting for food with 50 other fish. All these things going on, and you basically want to let them mellow out in your tank. When it comes to feeding them, which is one of the most important things, I like to use the Magic small fish feed and the community pellets. The fish feed will work for juvenile guppies and babies. Adults will eat it too, but then the big adults, they need the community pellet because it's big enough for them to get enough nutrition. And that's kind of it, which makes it sound very simple, but when you do those basic things, you've got crushed coral, you've got live plants, you seasoned the aquarium, you got the right number to begin with, you observed for illness and treated that, that's all it takes to set it up as a beginner. Now, where you get your guppies can matter. You want to get the healthiest ones you can. If you can get them from a local breeder, that's amazing. If you can get them from a local fish store, a mom and pop, and what's the difference between a mom and a pop and not a mom and pop? A mom and pop means there's two people on the name, up to two people. Like, hey, it's the McElroys. They owned Aquarium Co-op, right? Where Petco, PetSmart, Big Al's, those are corporations that have lots of owners, and typically they don't have the attention to detail to each store. And so multi-stores typically have, on average, weaker fish, just as an observation. And the closer you can get to just a hobbyist breeder or a friend, the better luck you're going to have. Buying online, you can get some great results. Dan's Fish does well. There's a bunch of other ones that do well. There's some that don't do so well. Do your research. I'm not going to go out of my way to say you should buy from here or shouldn't buy from there, but just know that having medications on hand helps a lot in case they do get sick. At some point, your fish will get sick. That is how fish go. And you want to be able to treat them. So having a medicine cabinet, very helpful, and just maintaining your aquarium. Now, some of the other basics that I'll cover that I think all aquariums need, but not just specifically guppies, would be a heater. I like to run them at least 76 degrees if I can help it. I like to run a top on there just because I don't like evaporation. I want to keep the heat in, and I don't want any jumpers. I like to run an aquarium light because I want to see my fish. I want my plants to grow. These are all things that are included in, kind of setting up fish tank videos. But when it comes specifically to guppies, the trick is if you really want to make a lot of guppies, just don't put other things in there. Don't put tetras, don't put rasboras, don't put barbs, don't put angelfish. Just have a really nice planted guppy tank, and you'll make tons of them, and you can trade them back into the fish store, and it'll fund the next tank, and you'll have a lot of success. And when you have all that success, then you can branch out and try different things. But as a beginner, make it as easy as possible. All you have to do is learn about guppies. You can look up videos on how to sex them, males versus females. The store, sometimes you go to a chain store, they don't know how to do that. You might have to educate them, which you're not expecting to do, but the males will have a gonopodium. The females will have a triangle fin, and that's how you differentiate male and female. If you get really high quality ones, females can also have quite a bit of color, so it's not just as easy as good looking male fish, silver, rounder female fish. That's not always the case anymore, especially with higher end fish. Now, when it comes to buying them, you can expect anywhere from $3 to $5 in a store for just what's called a fancy guppy, which is it's a mutt guppy also, which is not a bad thing. It just means that when the fish give birth, it might look like a bunch of different fish. And then you've got all the way up to hundreds of dollars on very sought after rare types. But in general, for pairs and trios, which is two fish, boy and girl, or boy and two girls, you might be looking at $20 to $30, basically about $10-ish a fish. And that might be like black Moscow, or, these red guppies, or these Vienna guppies. They basically have a type, they breed true, and maybe you're into that. But I really do love the mutt/fancy guppy tank where it's just every color under the rainbow. They're all breeding together. It looks amazing, and they're easy to unload, and they're cheap. It's a great way to start by getting fish that are basically like $5. You get 6 of them, you spend $30, you learn on them, and then you can set up another aquarium down the road because you've made so many of these, it will fund the next one you want to do. And if you keep to these simple tips, I find that your success rate is 80+%. And why isn't it 100%, Corey? Because you've got to know what is overfeeding. You've got to know what does disease look like. You've got to know, you don't leave the light on 24 hours a day. There's so many things when it comes to keeping an ecosystem that you need to continue your education and watch other videos and keep learning. This is what's going to get you through, the very beginning of, okay, I'm interested in guppies. These are the tips and the tricks that are going to lead me to success. But if you have no concept that you need to be changing water, you need to be testing water, you need to be doing some of these things, those are foundational blocks that you need. That isn't part of setting up the tank specifically for guppies. That is all aquarium fish. And we have videos on how to gravel vac, how to change water, when to fertilize, all of these things on the channel, on our forum, on our website. And I don't want to turn this into a 50-minute video. So those are all the tips, specifically how to set up for guppies to thrive and have success. You always want to try to have more females than males. You want to feed a lot. You want to change a lot of water. You want dense plant growth. You keep to those, you will have a lot of success. So if you have any problems, reach out to our customer service or hop on the forum and hop into the live group and go ahead and post pictures of your tank and ask questions. We will all gladly help you. We're here to help. We want to help you cross the creek to the other side, and then someday you'll help the next person cross, and they'll be keeping guppies too, and now you've got a guppy friend. So we'll see you around. Thanks for watching.